make sure you're muted so we don't get any crosstalk and distraction. So like I said, this will take me about 30-35 minutes, lots of times for questions at the end. A little bit about me. My name is Michael Miller. I've been in marketing and PR for about 25 years now, when I was working on the corporate side through a variety of industries, everything from banking to bowling alleys. And for the last number of years, working with small and mid-sized business owners like yourselves through my company's Good Ideas Marketing and Your Marketing Mentor. I am a duct tape certified marketing consultant and coach, which is always fun to say, and nobody ever knows what it means. So I'll let you go Google that and find out what that's all about. I want to start today with a poll. And unfortunately, Alignable Zoom doesn't let me set up a poll, so I can do it all fancy and give you buttons to click and show you the percentage results afterwards. So we're going to do it the old-fashioned way. I'm just want to get you to drop into the chat. What's the number one way that you're getting new business right now? And here's some ideas. There's more than this, but I'd love to know what is the number one way that you right now are getting new business. Drop that into the chat for me. Word of mouth, referrals, Alignable, awesome. Referrals. Oh, another Alignable, paid search ads, awesome. Referrals, word of mouth. The not, I don't know what that is. We'll have to find out a little bit about that a little bit later. Word of mouth, strategic partnering, yeah. Awesome, a lot of what I expect. Some ones that a couple I hadn't heard about, and some that I don't see a lot in there, but a lot of what I expect. I mean, if we lump probably the referrals, the word of mouth, and the strategic partners, which are all kind of the same thing there, into one group, this group looks like it's probably in the, maybe even high, maybe in the 80 to 90% range of people of that sort of they're getting their new business. And that's not really a shocker. That's pretty typical of audience. In fact, if you look at statistics, 82% of small business owners claim their main source of their main source of new business are referrals. So it's pretty consistent. The challenge, though, and why I asked this question at the start of a website conversation, is a number of things. So 61% of mobile searchers are more likely to contact a local business if they have a mobile-friendly website. 7% of potential customers won't consider business with low ratings. And 64% of consumers say watching a marketing video on Facebook influenced the purchasing decision they've made in the last month. So while we're all getting a lot of our business from referrals, which is fantastic, it means you're delivering quality service, and people want to talk about that and want to share about it. But all these other things have sort of crept into the equation. And that's the biggest thing that's changed, in my opinion, about marketing in recent years. I mean, we can talk a lot about all of the new platforms and tools, and certainly, artificial intelligence is getting all the headlines lately, and that's changing a lot of things to do with a whole lot of industries. But the thing that's changed the most about marketing, really, is how people buy. So we may get those referrals, but a lot of times the first time they connect with us is after they've looked at our website, after they've read our reviews, they've checked out our social media. So they're making decisions about whether or not we're a company that they can trust, who can solve their problem, before they ever pick up the phone and call us, or before they ever walk into our store if we've got a physical location. And that journey is something we as business owners have to understand. And while a business may come to us through a referral, how they make that decision to call or visit us, it doesn't look like this anymore. This used to be pretty standard. This is, a typical kind of marketing funnel. This is the way that it works. Nice, neat, straight line that someone would follow. But the buyer's journey today looks a little bit more like this. The way that your customers come into contact with you and decide to buy, even those who have been referred to you by somebody, is largely out of your control. So that's why we need to have a system, right? And strategy needs to sit squarely at the center of that system. And this is my system that I use. I'm not going to dive into this, but I just use it as an example. What I'm going to focus on, so strategy needs to sit very firmly at the center of that system, and then everything else around the outside is how we bring that strategy to life. And what I'm going to focus on today is that top, I'll call it a box, that website that builds trust. Now you'll notice too, as we go through today, I'm going to end up touching on some of these other elements too, but that's just because nothing exists in a vacuum, and your marketing system needs to be integrated the same way. But what we are going to talk about today are the 7 essential elements of your website. These are not the only elements that you need to have on your website, but these are 7 of the most important ones for most small businesses to have on there to make your site work a little harder for you. So your website is the hub of your online presence. But before we dive into the 7 elements, you really sort of need to talk a little bit just about the purpose of a website. And when I say the purpose of the website, I'm not talking about the type of website. It's a weird kind of distinction, but there are e-commerce websites designed to sell products directly. There are informational websites designed to educate and to inform. There are websites designed to capture sales leads. There's sites designed just to maintain your attention and keep you on the site so that somebody can sell and make money through advertising or affiliate links or things like that. So there's a lot of different kinds of websites, but no matter what kind of website you have out there, it has an underlying purpose. And this statistic I like to put up, 92% of consumers will visit a brand's website for the first time for reasons other than making a purchase. So that kind of hints at the enormous job, the enormous purpose that our website has. It's not just a digital brochure. It's not just a shopping cart. It's got a lot of jobs to do, because your customers or your prospective customers, they're on a journey. They're moving through the stages of know, like, trust, try, buy, hopefully on to repeat and refer as they look into who can solve their problem. Is it you? What's it going to be like to work with you? And your website has to help them move through whatever stage they're at now onto the next one, with the ultimate goal being of a sale, and then beyond that a repeat customer and referral. All that to say, your website's got a lot of work to do. It needs to be optimized for search to help you get found online in the first place. Your website is a key element in building trust. Once a person arrives on your site, it needs to validate their challenges. Your website needs to function in a way that customers need and they expect it to. It needs to teach people how to recognize what their problems and challenges are and to educate them. And then once a person's found you and trusts you, you need to inform them how you can solve their problem. And then often people are going to come back to your website time and time again, numerous times, before they make a final purchasing decision. So you need to be able to capture their contact information, their email address, a phone number, and continue to create valuable content for them, to nurture them until they're ready to make that final sale. And then finally, converting. A conversion can be a number of things. It could be subscribing to a newsletter. It could be picking up the phone and calling you. It could be making that purchase right then and there on the website if you've got an e-commerce aspect to your website. But conversion opportunities need to be an element of the design on your website, on your homepage, to help guide them through that journey. Okay, so thus ends the preamble. Let's jump into the 7 elements. The first element you must have in the website is a promise. Promise to solve the biggest problem that your ideal client has, how you can help them push that boulder up the hill. And I'm going to give you a bit of the cold hard truth on this one. Nobody wants what we sell. They want their problems solved, period, end of story. When someone hits your website, you literally have, and studies have shown this, you have a couple of seconds, maybe 3, to convince them to stay and to keep exploring. So they need to they do immediately start to make snap decisions. Often they're unconscious ones about whether or not they like and they trust you. And they don't care how long you've been in business. They don't care how great your widget is. Hopefully they will if they get to that point. But right now, they just care about one thing. Do you understand their problem and can you solve it? And that needs to be big, and it needs to be at the top of your homepage, just screaming at them. The purpose of the promise headline is to show the visitor that you understand the challenges that they face. So let me give you some examples of what I'm talking about. So people are often scared of the disruption and the chaos of a remodeling project and what it's going to bring into their lives. So this remodeling company addresses that right up front. You'll love your remodeling experience as much as you love your new project. You know, there are a lot of accounting firms out there that can do a business tax return. What this company found was what their ideal customers really liked about working with them was that they helped them make better business decisions by helping them understand their financial statements. So imagine looking at your financials and seeing answers instead of questions. Now here's an SEO company. You know, SEO can be confusing for a lot of people, but the promise of making your phone ring, that's strong. So you want your promise to speak to your ideal client in their language, not in industry jargon. And you want to connect to their pain point, what they're going through right now. And I'm going to show you a couple of ways that you can use to get at that and figure out what that message could be. And when we talk about this problem statement, what we're really talking about is a core message that makes you stand out from the competition. You know, and the absolute best way to get at what that message is to pick up your phone and call your customers. Or if you see them face to face, if you can sit across from them on a table with a cup of coffee and do it even better, and start asking them some questions. You know, ask them, how did you find us in the first place? You know, well, what made you hire us? Why do you stick with us? What do we do that others don't? And I'll tell you, when you first ask these kinds of questions, you're going to get responses like, well, you give great service. And that's not really very helpful at the surface level. So you'll probably have to ask some probing questions, like, tell me about a time that I delivered great service, or what does great service mean to you? And you probe them, and you do this, and excuse me, you do this enough, and you're going to start to see themes that are going to emerge. You're going to start to hear the same phrases and keywords used over and over again. And that's going to allow you to start to piece together the problem solution statement that speaks to what your ideal clients really love about doing business with you, and what is the problem that you're really solving for them. And here's another tip. Google reviews are a message goldmine. So every business on here, I hope, is collecting reviews from happy customers. If you're not, you should be, whether it's on Google or Yelp or one of the many other platforms that are relevant to our businesses. You should be out there doing that. That used to just be for local businesses, like, you know, your med spas and your nail salons and restaurants, but it's absolutely everybody. Even B2B companies need to be doing this now. What I want you to do, if you are, and I hope you are, is go in and read those reviews word for word. Now, you should be doing that anyway, because you should be responding to each and every single review. But in this case, I want you to read them looking for themes. Because if people have taken the time to leave you a review, you've surprised them. You know, you've exceeded their expectation. You've solved their problem. So let me give you some examples of what I mean. I've got 3 reviews for a local company, and I've pulled out sort of a key message line from each, and I'm just going to run through those and read them quickly. So they came and worked as scheduled and cleaned up nicely after it was done. The guys showed up on time and did a wonderful job. In the past, we've dealt with people who don't show up or do a professional job. Everything was cleaned up very well. So I went through that pretty quickly, and you probably didn't even notice that that was for a tree service company, because nothing in any of those comments said anything about taking down trees or tree service. You know, the challenge is that anyone with a truck and a chainsaw can cut down a tree. I don't actually know if that's true, but that's kind of the perception. And what they're not getting from someone like that, though, is somebody who will show up when they say they will and clean up the job site when they leave. And that's the problem that this company is solving for their ideal customer. And that is now on their website above the fold. I promise you, we'll show up when we say we will, and we'll clean up before we leave. So what's the real problem that you're solving for your ideal clients? That needs to be what you lead with in your messaging. not just on your website. We're talking about the website now, and it absolutely needs to be what you lead with on the website, but it needs to be what you lead with in all of your marketing and your messaging as well. So that's number one. Number two is to clearly define your ideal client, who they are. They want to see themselves when they visit your site. And now I know that some of you will serve, two or more different types of customers, and it becomes necessary to speak to all of them on your website. And what I'm going to suggest to you is, rather than trying to water down your message and be all things to all people, try and create content for both of these audiences specifically, and then allow them to self-select the journey that they want to go on. Here's an example of how HubSpot does just that, right? Are you a business owner? Or are you a marketer? Which journey do you want to go on? Here's another example from a clean energy company. The core promise here is the same, but how they deliver on that promise differs based on their two ideal client types. And as a consumer, I can come here and I can choose the path that I want to go down, how I want to see that story unfold. Here's another example from a brand close to my heart, Duct Tape Marketing, the three types of customers that they serve. You can even do this with your testimonials and your case studies. So you can choose ones that speak to your different ideal client personas. I will say this though, as a caveat, use this sparingly. I would advise you to limit this to, if you need to use it at all, to 2, maybe 3 tops. If you go any further than that, chances are what's happening is you are going too far into the weeds and you're losing the big picture. And that's when those customer interviews can really come in handy and help you get, at a higher level of what that problem is that you're solving, because it may be the same problem for all of your customers or a larger group of your customers than you think, and you can limit this. Now, we didn't talk about this, and we're not going to talk about this in this session, but I did address this in another webinar that I'd be happy to share a recording to if anybody's interested. But when you're doing this, what you want to be doing is focusing on the top 20% of your clients. And to me, those are, there's 2 characteristics: the people who are the most profitable and refer you the most business. Those are the customers that you want to be speaking to, because those are the people who are going to pay a premium for what you do, and you want to attract more people like them. So that's why I say limit this if you need to use it at all. And even going back to your problem solution statement, target that at your ideal client, that top, who represents the top 20% that you're dealing with. And again, it's a whole other topic of itself. And if anybody's interested, I can share you a link. Just let me know in the chat that you want to, and I'll send it to you afterwards. Number 3 is what you offer. So these are your core offerings, your core products or services. A lot of people bury these in a menu at the top. What I'm going to suggest you do is you create actual boxes that feature your core products and services on your homepage. Include an image, include a headline, include about 50 to 100 words of content in each. Now, since these are your core services or products, you'll likely have full pages or sections of your website dedicated to these already, which is great. But by placing them on the homepage, accompanied by some descriptive content, you're going to give yourself some additional SEO value, but you're also going to allow people to experience them and start to unfold that story themselves a little bit earlier on. And again, I should be able to click on any one of these and go to a dedicated page speaking about that product or service, that, again, without going down too much of a rabbit hole, that is optimized for keywords around that product or service. Now, you want to try, when you're doing this, you want to try and use the phrases and words that your ideal clients would use when they're writing these. And that's for a couple of reasons. A, they'll better understand them. And B, if you're using the same words that they would use, those are going to be the same words that they're going to type into a search engine when they're looking for a solution to their problem. So that's going to give you a better chance to rank on Google. And then here's just another example of a company doing that with icons instead of the pictures. So item number 4 is video. Video is going to really allow you to give people a sense of who you are. and what you stand for, and let them hear your story. It's also a great way to produce content that will engage your audience. Some people will put this in a nice to have category. I think fewer and fewer in recent years, but I really think this is a must have for small businesses these days. And here's some statistics outlining kind of why I think that way. 52% of marketing professionals worldwide name video as the type of content with the best ROI. 64% of consumers make a purchase after watching branded social videos. And 59% of executives agree that if both text and video are available on the same topic, they are more likely to choose video. So those of you serving a B2B audience in the group now, these are your customers, and almost 2/3 of them are saying they would rather consume video. So are you giving that to them? And you can do this in a variety of different ways. You can have a brand or an explainer video, as it's called, right in your homepage, expanding on your customer problem solution statement, which is something I'd advise you to do. But a lot of companies right now, I know, are really struggling to hire, and a number of industries that's their number one challenge. I've got an accounting client that has actually had to scale back their marketing because they just can't hire enough people to deal with more incoming leads. It's just there's nobody to hire. So video can be a great way for prospective employees to get to know what it's like to work at your company, to hear from current employees, sort of from the horse's mouth, so to speak, on why this is a great place to work, and get a sense of your culture. You can also use video to educate customers and prospects. You can use it to demonstrate your expertise. Teach them how to get the most out of their purchase is a fantastic way to use video and develop that relationship after they've made a purchase. Use it to pull back the curtain and show people what goes on behind the scenes. And when you do video right, it's also going to help you get found in search as well. So, and if you think back, if you remember those 6 jobs back on several slides ago that your website has to do, video can actually play a role in just about all of them. Okay, so we're moving through, we're down to the last few. Number 5 are trust signals. So one of the jobs that I mentioned earlier of your website is to help build trust. Before someone's going to buy from you, they need to trust you. So you need to have elements on your website, on your homepage particularly, that will build that trust. Whether they're logos of current customers or they're testimonials that your audience can glance over. Here's a company using client logos on their site. So as a prospect who's visiting their website, I can look at this and I can say, okay, these guys are working with companies that I recognize that are similar to me, that maybe have the same problems as me. So maybe these guys can help solve my problem too. Partner organizations are another great trust signal. So if you're a member of industry associations, and or you work with other organizations that serve the same client in a non-competitive way, this can be a great way to show that you're an established part of a community, and that can lend trust and help you build that bridge to trust. If you've got reviews or accolades you want your audience to see, make sure they're easy to find. Get them on your homepage. Don't bury them in an About Us section somewhere where I've got to go looking for them. Have them on your homepage where it's easy for me to see them. There are even tools right now that will allow you to pull your 5-star Google reviews right onto the website, keep them updated, even filter out the 2 and 3 ones so you're only showing the 4s and 5s, or even just the 5s. And 90% of consumers read online reviews before visiting or doing business with a business. So make it easy for them right from your website. And another great trust signal, if you are out there being featured in the media, if you are guesting on podcasts, this is a great trust builder. It shows people that you have a level of expertise that these groups are coming to you for content, that they want to speak to you about these issues. Now, this is all like these trust signals and the reviews and everything. It's a content category in and of itself for a lot of businesses. And you should really make that a part of your ongoing marketing strategy to to build these and collect them. But then once you've got them, get them on your homepage. Make it easy for people to see them so you can build that trust. Okay, number 6, second last one, are calls to action. So this is a call to action. It's an image or it's a text that prompts a visitor or a lead or a customer to take a specific action. It helps guide them and advise them on what the next step in their journey is. So your call to action, it can be a request for more information, it can be to schedule a consultation, it can be to download a free report. Just make sure it's relevant and that it's useful, because the days when people, hit a website and signed up for this generic newsletter are over. They're not going to do that. But people still want to be led towards useful activities that are going to get them closer to solving the problem that they're trying to solve. So here's a pretty standard one. It's a request for a free consultation. And if free consultations are a part of your business, I would suggest this is a call to action that definitely should be on your website. It shouldn't be the only one, but it should definitely be on your website. Here's another one, similar. I like this one. It has 2 options. So I can schedule a consultation if I'm at that stage and I'm ready to take the next step and jump into your sales funnel. But if I'm at a different place and I'm not ready for that conversation yet, I've got the option to learn a little bit more, to see how you do it. But it's still guiding me on the next step in my journey. Here's another similar example, doing pretty much the exact same thing. And calls to action, they can be, like I said, a request to a meeting. It can be, a click to call button. It can be to download an asset of some sort, or even to register for an event, which is the case that you're seeing here. Just think about the different types of calls to action at the different stages of the customer journey. As people are going from, know, like, trust, try, buy, into repeat and refer. Like what are the next steps for them? And if we know that 9 out of 10 people who visit a website, if you remember that stat I showed you back at the beginning, for the first time aren't there to make a purchase, think about how we capture their contact information to keep in touch with them until they're ready. And this is actually a segue into our last item for today, which are content upgrades. So a content upgrade is similar to a call to action, certainly in that it has one. I like to draw a distinction between the two, though, because a content upgrade gives people the ability to download some premium content, again, in exchange for an email address or a phone number or whatever information you choose to capture. Those are the 2 most common ones. But it's an essential element for conversion on your website, because it's leading them on to that next step. If they download this content, it's expressing an interest in the topic that they're reading about, that they're looking at, and it gives you the opportunity to follow up and to nurture them in a very specific way. The key to a content upgrade is, whether it's a checklist or an ebook, is it has to be highly relevant to the content that they're consuming. So this example here, this is a blog post on my website that's about how to optimize your website for local SEO. And then the content upgrade here is this local SEO playbook ebook. If somebody's reading this and they want to dive into this topic a little deeper, they can download this. I already know they're interested in the topic because they're reading the blog post on it. So I'm giving them something, an upgrade with more information that they can get just in exchange for an email address. Now, if you were on my website and you were to download this, you would be dropped into a nurturing funnel where you're going to receive a series of emails giving you additional tips and information about the same topic, all designed to nudge you towards the next step, which is booking a strategy session with me. Here's another example from a HubSpot blog. So this article is about video marketing, and you see the pop-up in the bottom right-hand corner there is offering their 2023 video marketing report. So you can see you can execute this in a number of ways, but the core idea is that you offer something of value related to the content that they're already engaged with, and that takes them to a deeper level. And that's going to enable you to secure that email address or that phone number that's going to allow you to nurture them and move them along in their journey. So those are your 7 elements. I mean, just to summarize, it's a problem to so it's a problem. It's a promise to solve a problem. It's a clear signal of who you serve, who your ideal customer is, so they can see themselves on your website. It's your core products and services on the homepage in those boxes with the descriptors. Video, again, on the homepage, but other places on your website used, as we talked about, in a variety of different ways. Trust signals, calls to action to move them along and to capture their information, and those content upgrades to continue the conversation and push it along. So there are a couple tools just before we jump into questions that I'm going to share with you that'll help you implement these elements on your website. The first is a free homepage wireframe. So this is like a template for your web page. It's what I use when I am designing web pages for clients to make sure that we're incorporating the right elements and different ways to incorporate it. So it has everything we talked about today, plus some other stuff on there that you can use to sort of figure out how you might want to implement these things on your site. And I'll drop a link, or I'll show you the link in a second, and then I'll also drop it into the chat, and you can go and you can grab this. And for anyone who wants a little bit more help, you can also download a package of planning tools and worksheets that'll help you design or redesign your website. So this is, the package includes, it's a website review checklist, it's a website redesign and creative brief template if you're going to be working with an agency or designer on our website, a core pages checklist, an about us page worksheet, a contact us page worksheet, and a lead generation and call to action worksheet. All this, you can download the whole package for just, it's $22 with the rebate code that's going to be on the landing page that you'll see, which again, I'll drop to you in a minute. And then the last thing is, would a review rather of your current website be useful to you right now? So I can't do this for everybody, unfortunately, because they take some time and I don't charge for these. But I will put it out there for the first 10 people who download that free wireframe. You'll notice how we'll do this just to make it easy. When you go to the landing page that I'm going to show you in a second, I'll drop into the chat. In the form to download the free wireframe, there's a little optional spot to drop in website address. If you want the website review, drop that in there, and I'll just grab the first 10 people that do that, and I'll reach out and we'll schedule a call, and we'll jump on and do a live review of your website. I can help you with any suggestions or walk through some stuff there. So here is where you can get that stuff, yourmarketingmentor.ca/web-rules. And I am going to pause the presentation here, copy that, drop it in the chat, and then we will jump to questions. Yes, just to make it easy so you don't have to type this whole thing out. There we go. That is in there. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And what we will do, if you've got a question, just use that little raise your hand icon under the reactions button there and let me know that you've got a question, and I'll just call your name and you can unmute yourself and ask away. And while people are pondering if they have a question, I will just thank you for your time today. I hope this was useful. There will be, as I said, a recording that you'll get after the fact. So somebody just asked, how can I get the recording? So Bonnie, that will be posted in the chat link on Alignable where the actual event was. I'll post it as a comment. So everybody who signed up for the webinar will get an e-blast saying that I posted that, and it'll be there. So watch for that. I will probably get that out tomorrow morning, maybe even later today. So does anybody have a question? I don't see any hands raised. So if you've got a question, I'm just going to say, feel free to unmute yourself and we'll let chaos reign and ask away.
Okay, Michael, wonderful information. It's Angela Jackson. I can't seem to get my video working. Oh yeah, here it goes. I'm wondering, because I'm very interested in your blueprint, and I went to get it and I couldn't. So what is the link to be able to upgrade to get that?
I dropped it in the chat there. It should work. That is the link in the chat not working?
I got the link to your site. I'm just talking about getting the, the $22.
Oh, that, okay, so so there's two ways to do that. Once you, if you, on the same link where you can download the free wireframe, there's also a button below that that says get the
Yep,
worksheets. That'll
Yep.
take you to a landing page. Or if you download the free wireframe, it's going to take you to a subsequent thank you page, which also has a link
perfect.
to get the worksheets.
Very smart. Double, double. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else have a question? I can't believe you guys must have a question. No, I've never done this and not had questions. Is everybody getting the leads that they want from their website? Does anybody have a, are you having a specific issue with your website you want to throw out there? Are you wondering, if it's
Well,
working?
I can continue. So I have a website that's called AngelaJacksonBooks.com, but I haven't used it in years and I need to upgrade it to what I really do and have done forever, which is coaching people on, anger and stress and things like that. So what do you think, what would be a ballpark that I would have to pay to get a redesign done?
So it's going to be all over the map. It depends on the complexity of your website. It sounds
Simple.
like probably your
Simple.
website. Sorry?
It's simple. I want a very simple website, easy to navigate, simple with the videos and, but simple,
Yep.
Basically simple.
So,
and do I need to use WordPress is the other thing, or can I do something else? Which is better?
You don't need to use WordPress. I mean, WordPress is probably the most popular platform. And I think so. I think the statistic is something like, I want to say 60% of websites are built on, but it's great. I love it. And it's one of my two go-to tools for building websites, but it's certainly not the only one. The thing with WordPress is, even though it is something that you can manage yourself, I really recommend getting some help with it, because you can really quickly mess up your website from an SEO perspective by putting plugins in there and unnecessary things. It slows it way down, and they
done that.
And if you don't update it properly, it can knock the website offline and cause all kinds of issues. So it is a tool that you can, with a little study, figure out and build your own website. I still strongly recommend you work with somebody to do it. So typically, for a simple website that you're building in WordPress, your ranges are going to be, again, depends if you're doing it onshore or offshore, but are probably going to be in the $2,000 to $5,000 range to build from scratch. If you're creating a new website, sounds like a simple one for you. There are other alternatives out there. A lot of people are using tools like Wix and Squarespace, and I forget the other one. They're okay. The developers of those are pouring a whole lot of resources into them, and they are getting better. I don't love them because they handcuff me in a lot of things that I want to do, but for someone who wants to do it themselves and just wants to make it easy, they can work. A better alternative to those that I actually use for some sites is something called Duda, DUDA.co. Is another. It's sort of a hybrid, almost somewhere between a Squarespace and a WordPress development. If you want to try it that way. So there's many different, just whatever you do, don't have somebody custom code your website. I've encountered that with a client recently who, it's even built on WordPress, but they had somebody, they completely custom coded this WordPress website, and I'm having to completely blow it up and rebuilding it. And it's needlessly costing them money because they can't update the site, and neither can I, the way it's been built. So you just want to make sure, if you are using WordPress too, you're working with someone who's using a theme that's going to, it's going to be it's going to be fast. They're going to enable you to make updates in the future easily, if that relationship isn't long-term, right? You don't want to have
Right.
something that a year from now you need to revamp the website and that person's fallen off the planet and you need to find somebody new, and somebody new can't work on it, right? So just a couple of things
Beautiful.
to keep in mind. Does that answer your question?
Oh, it does perfectly. Well, there's
Yeah.
one little more. If I have, the website that I have was designed offshore, and the guy has done custom, obviously, he's done the custom coding. So
Yeah.
is there, can I get that taken off, or do I start all over?
You're kind of starting from scratch.
Thank you.
You don't have to
Thank you.
change, you don't have to change the URL, obviously, but you're kind of starting from scratch. Now, you could have another a developer, have a look at it, and maybe they can work within it, but it's always, even if they can work with it, it's always going to have the issue of when you need to update, it's complex.
Yeah.
And when, as WordPress updates, because WordPress updates their own operating system on a frequent basis, the chance of that breaking because it doesn't work well on the latest version of WordPress just get higher and higher. So yeah, your best bet is to have it rebuilt.
Thank you so much.
You are very, very welcome. Thanks for the question.
Hi,
Anybody
Michael.
else have anything?
Michael?
Yes.
Yes. Hi, I'm Tiffany. Thank you for your presentation.
You're
I
welcome.
have a question on content upgrades. I'm currently using Wix.
Mhm.
I have no idea how to do that content upgrade thing and to collect emails.
Okay, so it's super simple, and I have a client who has a Wix website that I've been I say forced to work on, but so I and it's going to be similar and it's going to be platform agnostic. So what you're going to do, so step one is getting, what is that content upgrade? What is that lead magnet? What is that thing that someone's going to trade their email address or their phone number to get from you? And it could be a tip sheet, it could be a checklist, it could be an ebook, it could be a white paper, it could be
Okay.
access to a recorded video. Whatever it is, have that first, and assuming that you have that,
Yes.
then you're just going to want to build a form onto your website. So you're going to
Build a
want,
form.
yeah.
Okay.
So you'll have a form. You'll have a little ad that's promoting the value of this. It probably has a picture of what the item is and says, do X, Y, Z. Whatever the benefit is to downloading this, what it's going to enable them to do. You market that, you tease that out, and then you have the form there for them to fill out. They fill out the form, click it, and then there's a couple of different ways that there's a few different ways that you can do. You can set it up so that the form will automatically give them download whatever that is. You can, which is not, I don't love that, but it's straightforward and it's easy, and you should still get the email address. You can direct them to another landing page that can then, it'll have the button to download it. So maybe I didn't say, what you're going to do with that lead magnet is you're going to upload it into Wix. And then you're going to take the URL from that, and whatever button is the download my tip sheet, say, after they've subscribed, that button links to that URL and it just downloads the PDF, or it opens up the PDF in another browser. But anyway, so that if you drive them to a secondary landing page, we call it a thank you page, then what you can do on that page, you can give them the ability to click and download the lead magnet, but it also gives you the opportunity to upsell them. Because here's the cool thing, if they've downloaded that, so I'll use my local SEO playbook as an example. If somebody's downloaded that, I'm putting them into a nurturing sequence in my email thing, so they're going to get a series of emails. But what they're going to get on that very next landing page is a message telling them, I've emailed it to you. I don't let them download it directly. I want them to get used to getting emails from me. So I email it to them. I said, go check your email. It's in your inbox. And then the rest of the landing page is, do you want to take the next step? This book is going to help you do X, Y, Z. But you know what? If you really want to shortcut this and get your SEO on track, let's do this. Let's book a consultation, or let's, buy this, whatever the next step is for you. try and do that right then and there if you can on the landing page, because you know they're already engaged and they're much more likely to take the next step right away than they are a week or two down the line. So
Thank you.
no problem. Yeah, I went off on a
That-
bit of a tangent there, but
No,
it-
actually, I do have a follow-up question, because after you collect the email, what email software would you recommend?
So there's a lot of them out there that do very similar things. The one that I use and I use for clients is called Active Campaign. It's a little complex and probably has a little more horsepower than most people need. You'd be fine with MailChimp. It's very easy to use. Constant Contact is very easy to use. There's one called, it used to be called Sendinblue, but I think it's changed its name. I've not used it, but I've heard very good things about that. But both Constant Contact and MailChimp are easy to use and easy to set up.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hi, Michael.
Yeah, hi there.
Hi. Thank you so much for the information and for your presentation. It was very insightful. Thank you. I just wanted to let you know that there are a few questions I saw in the chat box. They start right after the link that you shared. I think there's about maybe 3 questions in there.
Oh, well, thanks for the tip. Yeah, I get going on these things and then I just forget to check the chat box. So thank you for that tip. Did you have a question or shall I just go through those?
Yeah, I do have one of the questions in there. It's related to the content upgrade tip.
Yeah.
So for that, would we have to create that downloaded material, or are we okay with pulling a resource from like another source?
Probably you're going to need to create that yourself. It would depend what the other source is, because the thing that you're doing here is you have to give it to them or give them access to it. So if it's somewhere else, they can probably get it without giving you their email address. I'm not
Right.
exactly sure what the example is you're thinking about, if it's a specific one, but if my content upgrade were a link to somebody else's blog that had more information, I don't want to send them there. I don't want to send them off my website to get information somewhere else. I want them to think it's coming from me.
Yes.
So I would suggest, even if you have to take something somebody else has built and tweak it and create your own version and add a little bit more to it without plagiarizing them, that's fine.
Okay, thank you so much.
No problem. So let me just go through, now that Baron's pointed that out to me. So quickly read through these. So how often do you recommend we post on a blog? So monthly, I would say is a good bet. You can go more frequently if you've got the time and the resources, weekly or bi-weekly, to do that. But with blogging, you want to, you're doing it for a couple of reasons, or a few reasons really. So you're doing it to keep fresh content going on your website. Google likes to see that the website's being updated. You're doing it for people that subscribe, to a reason to email them the latest blog and keep them engaged with your brand. And you're doing it because there's opportunities every time you write a blog to optimize that blog for specific keywords. So if there's something you want your site to start ranking for, you can optimize a blog post for that without having to rewrite one of your existing website pages or create a whole new page that may or may not be something you want to keep around for long term. So you kind of do it as often as you need it. I would try and keep it at monthly as you, if you can. The other important thing to keep in mind with blogs is be strategic about them. Don't just find yourself, okay, I need a blog in 3 days. What am I going to write about? What am I going to write about? And you rattle something off and get it out there. What I do with clients is we go through the process of creating an editorial calendar. So we take the year and we break it down into months and quarters. So every quarter we have a theme. This is the overall theme that we're going to be speaking about this quarter. And then whether it's weekly or it's monthly or it's bi-weekly within that quarter, these are the subtopics that we're going to deal with. And those become, sometimes I'll break it down to a third level. Sometimes I'll have a monthly theme under the big theme, and then I'll have individual blog posts, or sometimes I'll just have the individual blog posts under that big theme. But it keeps you focused, and you know, okay, I know a month from now I'm posting on this. And if there are cycles to your business, you can cater those themes to the different cycles, so they're very relevant to your ideal clients at that specific time. But it just keeps you focused having that calendar there. Another question, content upgrade. How often do you, okay, that's the same question. Would you revise any of your advice for a new business or a startup? The only piece of advice I would revise for a new business or a startup is you're going to have a tough time with the interviewing clients, because you probably don't have any, or you have very few. So that's going to be a challenge for you. So in that case, when you're trying to develop this ideal client profile that's going to be the problem solution statement, it's going to be a combination of, you know, a little bit guesswork from you, like what do you know about the industry, what do you think it is, and research. Do competitive research, see what your competitors are doing and talking about and how they're positioning themselves, and do research in other channels. Like if there are associations, find out what the associations are talking about. If there are forums where your potential clients are getting together and talking about things, try and listen in and see what they're talking about too. And then until you've built up a base of customers that you can sort of feel confident in, yeah, I can go out and I can find my top 20% of customers now and go interview them myself, and then revise it. Because this is all going to be revised too. Like you don't set your client problem solution statement and then forget it and never deal with it again. You're going to want to revisit it from time to time, because your clients are going to change. You're going to want to venture into a new market, so you're going to want to change that. You're going to want to expand the business, or maybe you find that it's not catching the way you want it to. You're going to want to revise it. So it's a living thing. So you're always going to be coming back to that. And I don't. Oh, is there a coupon code for the Essentials pack? It says $29 on the site. Yes, on the landing page before you get to the checkout, there's a coupon. I believe it's website 23. But if you go back to that landing page, it says use this coupon code to get it for $22. So that is there. And I see a question here from Brandy. I have a freelance writer website. Do you feel it is necessary to implement a video on my website? I think video is good for every website. Off the top of my head, things that you could do, Brandy, it could be you talking about your process. It could be you doing some satisfied client interviews, talking about working with you. It could be an animated video, an explainer type video of someone dealing with the issue that they're coming to hire you with. Like, oh my God, I've got to get XYZ written and I don't know where to turn and can't do it myself. And I tried, and then I found Brandy and she took me through this process, and oh my gosh, it did this. This was the outcome. And you can script that and create like an animated video on Powtoons or something like that. So it's definitely valuable for you to do if you can. Any other questions? I think that's everything that was in the chat. We're coming up at the end of our time, but if anyone's got a final question. No? All right. Well, thank you. Those of you who stuck around to the very end, thank you so much for your time today. I hope you got some value out of it. And, that recording will be coming out so you can watch again and use the worksheets and use the template, the wireframe, and get your websites working harder for you. Thanks a lot. Take care. I'm recording.